about the wealth of returners that we have and the outlook for the season.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's a coach's dream to be able to coach a team that has 7 fifth-year seniors, and I have to remind myself, even if you're nitpicking through a workout or a practice, just how enjoyable a season this should be. And that doesn't mean everything's going to go perfect, or knock on wood, we have an injury or two that would derail things or make things harder. But I want to enjoy this group because they've been such a big part of what we've accomplished and just fun to be around. Somebody showed me a picture the other day of three of them when they were freshmen, and just to look at it's not like they look completely different, but they've grown up, and just having been around them, I think just kind of enjoy being with them and finishing this journey with them. And I expect us to have a good year and a lot of fun, but there's still work to be done, but I want to enjoy it because I just think very few people probably get to go through this journey with as many young women as we've had for as long as we've had them.
How much of that sentiment is where they're at in their careers versus where you are at in yours?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's like, if I was 30, would I have that kind of sentimentality that you can see that I have? I don't think I would. I think I would hope I'd appreciate it, but I don't think I'd appreciate it at the level that I currently do, because I know the odds of this happening again, where you've got this group stay this long, it's rare. Just looking back, this isn't. So yeah, a lot of that's just from my vantage point, but I also think they have an older feeling about them. Somebody sent a screenshot of Lauren Jensen in her room at 8 o'clock on a Friday, reading with her feet up, reading, and from a couple weeks ago. So I think Morgan's Lauren's roommate, and they sent the screenshot and said, "This is what Lauren does on a Friday night," to one of the staff members. And I'm like, "Yeah, they're old. They've whatever college was as a 21-year-old. They're now. I don't want to say they never get out of their apartment at past 9 o'clock on a weekend, but they're definitely an older group."
What kind of an attitude, what kind of a motivation and energy have you seen them bring with them since they decided to come back?
Yeah, it was the foreign trip was neat, because I feel like it they had an appreciation for the trip itself, but they also had an appreciation for being with each other in a sense that, in today's world with social media and their phones and all the distractions, sometimes you lose that. And I feel like in a lot of ways I was resistant to necessarily taking this group, because I feel like, well, this group's already pretty good, and we're not, we probably would benefit more if we took a younger group over there as a basketball experience. But then to watch them not just enjoy the activities of the trip, but also just enjoy being with each other and the families. A lot of parents went, and when you have parents who've been around each other for 4 and 5 years, and they've been around their kids' friends, I think that just meant a little bit more. And so I really think that they're soaking it in, and I think the basketball piece will be really. I mean, they're competitive people, so I don't worry as much about that. So, for instance, yesterday in our longest section in practice, it ended up in a tie, and they hate me when I finish a section in a tie and don't let them finish. But I'm like, well, time's up, and I gave you X amount of time to decide who was the better team, and you ended up in a tie, and they hate that. So from that standpoint, I think it shows their competitiveness, and I don't think they're going to lose that.
As you mentioned, to have 7 fifth-year seniors, I'm sure we ask this every year about this time, but like when you have that many veterans, how much more is this preseason based on building as opposed to just like setting in, sets and plays and, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's definitely more, okay, what, you hear it's more the, hey, how can we get 1% better here? How can we get 2% better here? It's not building blocks as much. I mean, and we'll take our younger players and our newer players, and we'll have them do some individual stuff, and we'll walk through some stuff that the seniors don't need to walk through at the level. So we'll try to do some remedial stuff for them, and some, but you want to. I want input from our upperclassmen, our seniors. I want them to help guide me, and about maybe more important stuff than ever. Even like, what do you want to, what do you want to run here? We'll ask that in practice. I'll be like, hey, Molly, it's your choice. What do you want to run here? Lauren, what do you want? We've kind of always done that as far as like, hey, what time do you want to practice on Saturday? Or where do you guys want, what time do you guys want to eat? But now it's more basketball heavy stuff that we're involving them and seeking their input on. And I think that's rare. I think it's unique. I think it's fun. I think it's, like I said, I feel pretty spoiled. And again, that doesn't mean I'm not going to get on them this year as far as like, there's going to be times where, human nature is to occasionally be complacent about some things. And so I'll snap at them a little bit here and there, but I'm hoping that those are fairly rare occurrences.
And how do you kind of balance the sentiment of this season with still trying to be like, yeah, we want to push UConn for the league, we want to get to the second weekend. How do you balance those? I'm sure that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be a challenge to balance enjoy this group, but hey, how do we get to the top of the mountain, or how do we get further up the mountain than we've ever been? And I've spent a little bit of time, honestly, don't tell Kirsten this, but just watching her demeanor this year. Like, I feel like she's light, and then she's not as light, because she's got a great team, but Nora and Kendra are seniors, and she's got a lot, and so I'm trying to learn from her, like, what's the perspective? And she's great, but there's days where I feel like she's a little tighter than she was, and she's in season, right? I'm not in season. We haven't lost a game yet, so Flan's jolly, but in 2 months, I'll probably have a little bit of what I see from her, and that is, you want to enjoy it, but you also want to make sure that you're getting as much out of them as you can. And so it's good that I'm right next door to her, and when she walks in the morning, okay, is it intense Kirsten, or is it, I'm enjoying the moment Kirsten?
What sort of structural tasks are you hoping to accomplish in the short term before you get the season underway?
Yeah, we've got to figure out like how specifically our newcomers can help us. Kind of, not that you want to put them in a box, but you don't want to make things too complicated. Okay, Brooke can help us. What are the best ways she can help us, and how do we not make it so we're asking her to do 3 or 4 things outside her comfort zone or what she's been asked, but how can we get her to get better at 2 things? And with our freshmen, kind of the same thing. And hopefully it's the first year that Kiani's had a full year of full health, and how can we get her to be on the floor with Molly and Lauren at the same time, and make those 2 even better than they already are. So there's some of that, filtering down the roles of players who maybe haven't played as much. I mean, Jamie's going to have a greater role than Jamie Horan's going to have a greater role than she's ever had. And, getting her in lineups that we haven't necessarily seen before. So I think those are some things, where to use Mal defensively, I think is, last year with Emma playing as much as she did, Emma usually took a player's 5. We played Mal a lot on the perimeter defensively, okay. But Mal can guard a lot of different places, and what's the best place for her to guard? Is it to guard up now and guard post players, or is it to keep her on a perimeter player, and how much does that vary? So a lot of just individual, what can we ask of them to improve without asking them to do 8 more things than they've done in the past?
Who's impressed you the most in terms of their growth this offseason?
It's really Brooke Littrell, our fifth-year transfer from Central Missouri. She's come away since June. I feel like if you're talking about just strictly from June, she really scored the ball at Central Missouri, 19 or 20 a game, and I feel like we've got to figure out how to now. It's different. Like defensively, it's a big step up for her to guard at this level. But figuring that out, I feel like she's definitely made a jump, and we're going to need some of that punch. But Morgan's been out a little bit. She tweaked her hamstring. She's full go now, but like she's been out a little bit, so it's kind of hard to tell with her. But I think Keani's gotten better, and even Molly, I feel like Molly's shot the ball really well the last 2 years, and I feel like with Keani being healthy, we can play her a little bit more off the ball and take advantage of how well she's shot the ball, and then those two can hopefully both get Warren some shots too.
How'd you land on the two Division II transfers? How'd they get on your radar? How'd
Yeah.
you get on theirs? How did that play out?
Sure. Well, Sydney came first, and she's from Fremont. She sent me a really thoughtful email as far as like, hey, look, all I'm looking for is an opportunity. I want to get back close to home. I want to see if I can play Division I basketball. And I think sometimes when you're adding a transfer, it's like, I just was really impressed with the unselfish nature of the email. And I'd seen Sydney play in high school. We recruited Taylor McCabe from Fremont, and so I knew Sydney was a good player. I'd watched her when I'd watched Taylor play, so that was kind of easy. And then Brooke, we honestly shot for some Division I transfers and we couldn't touch them. the going rate is what I don't know what it is, but we couldn't touch some of the transfers that we thought we could get, and all of a sudden we're like, we came across her and we watched highlights, and Carly, the first time Carly watched her, she's like, oh, because those guys can pull up, we're in a staff meeting and I'm like, hey, I watched a little bit of her, and she's like, well, and within 15 seconds they've pulled it up and they're watching. She's like, ooh, I like that. So yeah, it was kind of like, wow, she can really score it. She can maybe do some of the things Emma did. I mean, I'm not telling you she's going to be Emma, but that was kind of how that evolved, and we got her to visit. And so, and look, I think, I said Ryan Hawkins was a pretty good player for the men a couple of years ago. You guys weren't, but you were here, I guess, just got here, right? Yeah, you went to Ryan, yeah, with Hawks. So I said, you play 4 or 5 years of high Division II basketball, you can come in and you know how to play. And so, yeah. So that was kind of in the back of my mind too, was Hawk was pretty good for us.
We got time for one more question for Flanery.
Is it your first experience of just kind of realizing where the transfer portal's at? And is it a shock?
It was honestly because we didn't think we didn't think we were going to lose as much as we lost. Emma had said, hey, I want to play with my sister. She'd been consistent about that, but I didn't think we were going to lose the other two. And, so we had to go get a couple kids. And yeah, it was a little eye-opening that players you thought, we didn't think we were shooting for the moon. We thought we were shooting for somewhere between here and the moon, and we weren't getting a lot of love. And so it'll, I don't know what's going to happen, but like I said, at the same time, I'm really happy with both of the fifth years that we had. I mean, you could ask yourself, a fifth-year Division II transfer or somebody who went 1 year to a D1 and didn't play and doesn't have game experience and doesn't know how to practice every day the way that these two do. It was eye-opening, but it also maybe gives us a blueprint for the future. Maybe one D2 transfer a year is the way to go.
I didn't have to cut mine off.
Yeah, right.
That's amazing.
It is eye-opening though. I'm not. It's like, whoa. I can't imagine what it's like on the men's side.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or